Rhonda. This is actually my second time filming this video because when I was editing the one that I previously did, I was very much out of focus, and as you can tell, I'm getting over a cold, so I just was sounding awful. You really couldn't understand what I was saying. So here we are, we're doing round two. In this video, I will be going over all the books that I read in the month of May, and hopefully it'll help you get some recommendations, or maybe if there was a book you were wanting to read but you really weren't sure, maybe it'll give you some insight on whether or not you should read it. For the month of May, I actually had a pretty good reading month. I read 17 books, which is amazing. I didn't think I was gonna read that many in May just because the month was so incredibly busy. But in terms of quality, it was okay. My average rating was a 2.98 stars on Goodreads. But I had like 5 2-star books and I had 1 1-star book. So out of those 17 books, 6 of them I did not enjoy. I did have a few 3 stars. I believe I had 5 4 stars, but I did have 2 5-star books. So I'm anxious to tell you all about them. So strap in and let's get started. Now, the very first book I picked up is a contemporary romance that I've been seeing a lot of. Well, not a lot, but here and there over the past year. This is a Kindle Unlimited book, and it's called In a Jam by Kate Canterbury. And a lot of people seem to love this. It is a small town romance, and it's about a girl named Shay who inherits this tulip farm from her step-grandmother. However, in order to keep this farm, she needs to move back home to the small town, and then she also needs to be married within a year. And then enters Noah, who was friends with Shay back in high school, and he has always had a thing for her, but he was too shy to say anything about it. But he is now obviously grown, and he is a single dad to his 5-year-old niece. And they have a little bit of those dynamics going for them too. Overall, I felt this was a really cute, fun, friends to lovers, fake, not really a fake marriage, but a marriage of convenience type novel. I enjoyed it. However, I did have a couple of issues with it. This is a book that's over 480 pages, so it is incredibly long for this type of contemporary romance, and that was a big problem I had with it. I was really invested in the story until about the halfway mark, and then from there I started getting bored with it, and I felt like it was really dragging out. And it was just getting boring for me. So I didn't enjoy that. I felt like a lot of it could have been edited down. And then my biggest problem with the book, and the reason why I only give it 3 stars, is in regards to the 5-year-old niece. She's going through stuff, and in order to cope with that, she cusses like a sailor. I mean, F-bombs. I mean, she's saying things that no 5-year-old should know. Words no 5-year-old should know. And I felt like the author was using that issue as comedic timing and just ways to make the story funny and lighthearted, and I didn't think that was humorous at all. I just hated that this 5-year-old was doing this. And on top of that, the adults in this book, Shay and Noah, they were trying to help her a little bit, but really they weren't doing a lot to help her outside of ignoring the things she was saying, which I felt was awful. I really didn't like that part of the book. I didn't like that it was so long, and really that's why it got 3 stars. I did enjoy it overall. I thought it was cute. Just those 2 things just really kept it from being a 4 or a 5-star book. The next book I read is also another contemporary romance. It's also another Kindle Unlimited ebook that I read on a whim, and it's called The Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn. It's supposed to be a lighthearted, cute rom-com, a fake dating rom-com. I really enjoy those. So I got it off Kindle and I read it, and it is another longer book. It's over 400 pages, I think, and I just really did not enjoy it. I gave it 2 stars. So this is about a woman who just got fired from her job, and the job she had, she was working for someone who was supposed to be her friend, but she's more like a frenemy. In order to make her ex-boss slash frenemy jealous, she goes on the hunt in this rich neighborhood to try and find a rich man to fake date her and to just make that boss jealous. Who I didn't understand that plot or the whole point of that, which is part of the problem I had with this book. But while she's there hunting for this man, this rich man, she runs literally into a man named Huxley. He is very wealthy, and he also needs a fake dating situation just for his own reasons. And so they agree to fake date, and it goes from there. Sadly, I really don't remember much about this book other than not really enjoying it at all. I also felt like it drug on in part. And also too, I may not have been the right reader for this book because this was incredibly spicy, so much so that it made me cringe. And I just don't like books that are just way explicit with the bedroom scene. Also, I remember I did not like the main character. I can't remember her name, but I remember her being very mean to Huxley, despite the fact that he was going out of his way to help her as well and give her all these things. And not only help her, I remember he was helping her, I think her friend or her sister, someone in her life who she cares a lot about. He was helping her with her business. So I didn't understand why the female character was being so mean to Huxley. I didn't feel like he deserved it. So I do have another book by this author. I think it's called Bridesmaid for Hire, and it's on my TBR cart. I'm a little scared to read it now because I'm worried I'm not gonna like it, but this one, it just missed the mark for me, and I gave it 2 stars. The next book I read is Night Watching by Tracy Sierra, and this is a thriller book that I read this month as well. And this was another 2-star book. Yes, another 2-star book. Strap in, because sadly there's more. I really wanted to love this one just because of the plot of this book. Sounded really, really good. This is about a mom who's home alone at night with her 2 young kids, and she wakes up because there's a man coming up the stairs, and he's looking for her and her 2 kids. So she quickly gathers her children and goes and hides, and it's not a panic room, but it's just a secret alcove that no one knows about. So her and her kids are hiding in this room while this man is searching the house for them, and he's calling out to them, and it's really creepy. It scared the bejeebies out of me because sometimes my husband does go out on work trips and I'm home alone with the kids, and I don't sleep well because I'm always afraid of something like that. But it was a great idea. It just did not deliver for me. I thought this book was really good. Like the first several chapters, it was really, really setting the scene with what was happening and hiding and all that. But it just went off the cliff from there. With this one, and this is actually going to be a common theme this month, I really did not love the main character. Also, another big problem I have with this book is the author would build up this great tension where I was flipping through the pages quickly, and then she would just kill that tension that she was building with this weird flashback that I felt like didn't have anything to do with the story. And so it was a roller coaster, but not in a good way. I just didn't understand that part of the book. It was weird and very frustrating, and just overall, great plot, great idea. It just didn't deliver for me, and sadly I didn't love it. So in March and April, I did discover the world of Abby Jimenez. I read her Part of the World series and really loved it. So this month I wanted to read her 3 previous books that I hadn't read on her backlist, and I picked up the Friend Zone books. The first one and her debut novel is The Friend Zone, and then you have her second book, The Happily Ever After Playlist, and then you have Life's Too Short. These are interconnected. I would say you definitely need to read this one before you read this one. I feel like with Life's Too Short, you can probably read that as standalone. I don't remember anything in it that would spoil these 2 books for you. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Comment, let me know. So I started with The Friend Zone, and I had heard this was not her best just because it was her debut novel, and there was a couple of things in here that others just don't like in a book, and I totally get that. I can see that. But I went into this with low expectations, thinking it might be a 3-star. I ended up loving it. I gave it 4 stars. I was pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed this. So this book is about Kristen, who is helping her best friend plan her wedding, and she meets Josh, who is the best man, and he has just moved to town. So with Abby Jimenez's books, you probably have heard this, there's always some kind of real world problem that is the conflict in each of her books, and there's certainly one in here. In this one, Kristen, and I'm not giving anything away because it is on the back of the book, but in this one, Kristen has some medical issues, a medical condition, and she needs to have a surgery that's going to prevent her from having children. And Josh, the reason why he broke up with his ex-girlfriend is because he wants a big family, and his ex-girlfriend did not want children. So that is the main conflict in this book. So overall, I really love this story. It put me through an emotional roller coaster, but in the best way, unlike Night Watching. But I really enjoyed it. So what I didn't like about this book was the lack of communication. With Kristen, she would give Josh some of what's going on, but she wouldn't give the full story, and that drove me crazy. I felt like you're already telling him some of it. Might as well finish it. It would just make things better. Also, I did not like the push and pull. Kristen would push Josh away, and then she'd pull him back, and then she'd push him away. I really, really did not like that at all. And then finally, I was not in love with the ending. I felt like it ended too neatly, and everything was tied up with the bow whenever the whole course of this book, it was leading towards something else. So I felt like a more realistic ending for this book would have been better, but I still really, really love this book. I cried definitely in this book. I thought it was so good. I was pleasantly surprised and I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read is the Happily Ever After playlist, and this is one of those books that is on the top of many Abby Jimenez favorite lists. A lot of people really, really love this. So I was going into this book thinking it was going to be a 4 or a 5-star read, and unfortunately it only got to 3 stars. So this is about a woman who is driving along the road one day and a dog jumps out and she slams on her brakes to keep from hitting it, and that dog ends up jumping through her moonroof, and she's like, crap, what's going on? That would freak me out actually. So she calls. So the dog does have a tag and it's also microchipped, and she calls the owner and leaves a message and tells him, hey, I have your dog. Well, she keeps calling, and 2 weeks later the owner finally calls her back and he wants his dog back, but he's out of the country. And she says, you know what, no, you abandoned your dog. He's mine now. I've been taking care of him. So anyway, the owner proves that he loves his dog. He cares about his dog. He wants him back just because he left him with someone who had no business taking care of his dog. The main character ends up agreeing to watch the dog while Jason is out of town, and during the course of this time they are texting back and forth. It's so cute. I really love that part of it, and things develop from there. The reason why this is 5 stars, even though I found it really cute, again, it was a lack of communication in this book. Also, there is some jealousy and some trust issues that I just really do not like in books. And finally, Jason is actually a musician, and I really just, sometimes I don't always enjoy books that features musicians or famous people, and that was the case for this one. But I think more than anything, I just did not like the lack of communication, and I did not like the jealousy and trust issues in this. I feel like if there's no trust, do not be together, because you will not get that trust back. So overall, that's why I gave this 3 stars. It was still fun and cute. Again, there is a deeper, heavier conflict in her books, and I enjoyed that. But overall, it was fine. It was okay, and I gave it 3 stars. The last Abby Jimenez book I read is Life's Too Short. So this one is about Vanessa, and Vanessa is a travel influencer on YouTube, and she lives life to her fullest because the women in her family do not live past the age of 30. And she has some health issues going on, and because of that, she doesn't think that she's gonna live past 30 either. So Vanessa has to actually put her career on hold and take care of her newborn niece because her half-sister has abandoned her to Vanessa. And then one night the baby is just inconsolable. She's crying. Vanessa cannot calm her down, and her neighbor, Adrian, knocks on the door and sees Vanessa and is like, you know what, you need some help. Go take a bath. I'll take care of the baby and try to get her to sleep. So Vanessa, anyone who has had a newborn baby in their life, whether you took care of one or if you had children, those first few months, actually that first year, is brutal. So Vanessa is obviously like, okay, I don't know you, but I do need a bath. I need a break. I will take you up on that offer. And it doesn't help that Adrian is very attractive, and this is just their story about how he kind of helps her with the baby while she's dealing with everything she's dealing with. So with this book, I gave it 3 stars. It was another okay one. Again, I like The Friend Zone much better than these last 2. But with this one, I just really did not love the plot of my mom and sister didn't live to see the age of 30, so therefore I'm not going to live to see the age of 30. I thought that was weird. I know she's having some health conditions that's leading her to believe that's a fact, but I didn't love that. Also, there is a major disease depicted in this that I felt was poorly researched and just used as a plot device. I just did not respect that. So I did love the chemistry between Vanessa and Adrian. I almost called him Liam. I love their chemistry. I thought they were cute together. I love the banter, and I love how helpful he was and how into her he was. But again, I didn't love the I'm gonna die soon plot, so I can't be happy. So again, it was cute. It just was kind of middle of the road for me, so I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read is Same Time Next Summer by Annabelle Monaghan, and this is another contemporary romance. It's very cute. So I read her first book, Nora Goes Off Script, back in April, and I really loved it, so I wanted to give this one a shot, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was just a really sweet and sweeping, cute summer romance. It's a short romance. I think it's under 300 pages, and it's a clean romance, which I do appreciate. And this is about a woman who is going back to her family's beach house in Long Island to help plan her wedding. And while she's there, she learns that her ex-boyfriend, the guy she just lost her heart to, her first love, her first crush, he is at the house next door. And these two people kind of grew up together during the summers. They spent every summer together. They fell in love. And so this is a dual timeline. So a lot of time is spent in the past from when they were kids up until they were teenagers, just learning about their relationship with each other. But Wyatt was really just her first love that she just never got over. And this is just about their reconnection. And I really, really, really love this. A lot of people say this kind of reads like a YA novel. And I can see that just because you do spend a lot of time in the past talking about how they met and them forming this relationship at a young age. So I definitely get that, but it's so much more than that. This was a little bit of an emotional read. There's deeper things going on. I felt like Annabelle Monaghan did such a great job. I don't know what it is about her writing, but she knows how to pace her story very well and really develop characters very well. I adored this book. I gave it 4 stars. I highly recommend it. It is a good beach read because it's so short. Just know that it is a little bit more emotional. So if you're wanting something light and fluffy, you may not get that with this, but I really enjoyed it and I highly recommend it. Next up is Ready or Not by Kara Bestone. I've been looking forward to reading about this. I've heard nothing but good things about this. So this one is about Eve, who has a one-night stand with a bartender and she ends up pregnant. Now, the father of the baby has a very complicated life and a very complicated situation, so he cannot always be there for her. And then there's Shep. Shep is Willa's brother, and he is kind of like a golden retriever, cinnamon roll type character. He is the guy who steps in and helps Eve out however and whenever she needs it. He just shows up, and I really love that about him. This is another novel where I did not like the main lead character. I love Shep. I thought he was just great and sweet and kind, and I loved his random act of kindness and that he always showed up for Eve. I just didn't like them together. I was not rooting for them. I thought Shep could do better, and that is a big problem when it comes to romance novels. You never want the characters not to be together. That's a major issue. And also, I just was not feeling their chemistry. It was awkward and weird. When they got to the bedroom scene, it was very clumsy and awkward, and I wasn't feeling it. And then finally, I hate saying this about books just because writing is hard. It's hard work when you write a book, but I did not like the writing in this book. I thought it was simple, and I've just read better with this type of trope. So sadly, I wanted to love this just because of the hype surrounding it, but it was a miss for me, and I had to give it 2 stars. The next book I read is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose, and first off, check out the cover. Isn't this amazing? I don't know if you can, there you go. It's a cracked VHS tape with some blood. But then when you take this off, look at the old school TV. Isn't that amazing? I thought this book was so amazing and really neat to look at. Sadly, this was another 2-star book. Oh, I didn't like it. It was just, I was disappointed. I really wanted to love this book just because of the cover. But this is about 3 siblings who, upon the death of their mother, come back to their childhood home to go through the house and just get it ready to sell. And they come across some old family videotapes. And they watch one that's labeled Summer of 1999. And in that video, it shows their mom and dad. Their dad is covered in blood and there's a dead body. And then not long after that video was filmed, their father runs off on them. So there's this mystery of what happened to their dad. Where is he now? Where did he go? So not only are they trying to solve the dead body issue, but they're trying to figure out what happened to their dad. This book really did not read like a thriller. It really just read like a family drama because that's all that was in this book. It was just all family drama. There was a little bit of thrilling elements at the end, but that was it. And it really wasn't that earth-shattering or plot twisty. It was just disappointing, unfortunately. So overall, it wasn't for me. I didn't love it, unfortunately, and so I gave it 2 stars. Next, I read The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I was really looking forward to this book because I read The Unhoneymooners back in April and really, really loved it. It was a 5-star read for me, so I was anxiously awaiting this because it also had a really interesting plot. But unfortunately, this was my biggest disappointment of the month. This one just was not for me, and I just think I was not the right reader for this book because so many people do love it. I don't think I've heard any other booktubers not enjoy this book. I sadly gave it 2 stars. This is another 2-star read for me this month, and I was so sad about that. So this book is about Anna and Liam, who went to college together, and they enter this marriage of convenience together just so they can get affordable married housing. And so cut to 3 years later, Anna is now a struggling artist, starving artist, and Liam knocks on her door and says, hey, we got married for this housing right, but we never got divorced. I need your help. So Liam is actually part of this super rich family, and in order to get the inheritance, he needs to be married for 5 years. And they're approaching that because they lived together for 2 years and then 3 years have passed, so they're nearing that 5-year mark. However, his family just does not believe that he's in a marriage, and they don't believe that it's not just a marriage of convenience, which is against the rules of the inheritance. I don't know, it's a little convoluted, but he can't get the inheritance if it's not a loving marriage of 5 years. So he asks Anna to come back with him to go to his sister's wedding. His family has rented this private tropical island. She agrees, and it just goes from there. His family is awful. I've heard if you've watched Succession, you would probably like it because it has that rich family drama that the show Succession has. I've only seen a couple of episodes, so I really didn't get that feel, but I'm not a good expert on that show. I just really, another book where I did not like the main character. I thought she was so immature, so annoying, so insufferable. All the stuff that came out of her mouth, some of the things that she would describe body parts, just gave me a case of the icks and made me cringe. Also, I felt like their relationship was not anything but a lust-driven relationship. They did not have that emotional connection. This book was just a book about sex and rich family drama, and that just, sadly, I'm not the right audience for that type of book. If you do read Christina Lauren books, if you do love most of her books, then you would probably enjoy this. I did enjoy the tropical beach setting. They did some things out in the water. That was very summery. I enjoyed that. I just did not like the rest of it, sadly. But again, if you like Christina Lauren, then you would probably enjoy this one. But it was a very big, disappointing miss for me. So 2 stars. Next up is Return of Ellie Black by Emiko Jean. And this is another thriller that's on the shorter side. It's under 300 pages. And I was pleasantly surprised by this. I gave it 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. And with this one, I could not put it down. I read it in a few hours and I was very much into it, and I needed to find out the ending as quickly as possible. It was so good. Emiko Jean, I think, is a YA author, so this book was her first adult thriller book, and I want to read more from her. I really enjoy this. So this book is about Ellie Black, and one day she disappears only to return 2 years later and will not tell anyone what happened to her. You're also following, this is a dual POV, so you're following Ellie Black, but you're also following Detective Chelsea Calhoun, I believe is her name, and her sister also disappeared 20 years ago, so she is personally invested into Ellie Black's story, and she needs to find out really what happened to Ellie to help solve her own sister's disappearance. This book was absolutely incredible. It had such an amazing plot twist that I did not see coming. It left me stunned. I love this so much. I do want to say I am a mom of 2 girls, and there are some things in this book that are a little difficult to read, but Emiko Jean did a really good job covering those topics. She doesn't go into graphic detail as some other authors do. She doesn't get explicit with anything. She just kind of glosses over what happened, and I truly appreciated that as a mother of girls, because I think if she would have gone into too much detail, I would not have been able to continue this book. Just know, check some trigger warnings, but just know as a mom of 2, I was able to get through this, and yes, it was disturbing, but I've read other books that have done it much, much worse. I've gone into explicit details to where I could not really enjoy the rest of the book. But overall, I love this book. Solid 4 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me, but pretty close. I really loved it, and I highly, highly recommend this, and I cannot wait to read more from Emiko Jean. Okay, I've been dreading talking about this book because I really do not like talking about books. I do not like it all. But let's go ahead and do it. Let's talk about The Ministry of Time. And this is my only 1-star read of the month, and had I not bought this book, I would have DNF'd it. It was so bad, unfortunately. I did not like this at all. So this is a time travel book, and it's about a character who is hired by the British Ministry of Defense after time travel is discovered to be a babysitter / companion to certain individuals. So what the government has done is they had gone back in time and picked people up from back in time who were on the brink of dying and brought them to the future. And the main character is assigned to this man who was on this British Arctic expedition and they got stuck in ice. So he was on the verge of dying and they brought him to the future, and she's assigned to him to just kind of look out for him, make sure he's okay, make sure he's handling these modern times. And I found this book so boring. Oh my gosh. I love time travel books. I thought I would love this book. Time travel books, I think that's on the tippy top of my favorite tropes. I absolutely love it. I don't care if it's romance, I don't care if it's sci-fi. I will read it and I will usually love it. This one was so incredibly boring. Really, you're just following the female character and the guy in this book just wandering around and him discovering modern things. That's it. The writing in this was also kind of weird. There's a lot of metaphors and cliches, and it was just weird. I didn't connect to any of the characters. As I said, there is some thrilling elements around the end, but by that point, I just didn't care, and I was ready for it to be over. And the plot twist, being a person who reads a lot of time travel books, there wasn't anything earth-shattering. It was actually kind of a common plot twist that I had read before. So overall, not for me. So sadly, that's why I gave it 1 star. And then I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and oh, this was a breath of fresh air. I love this book so much. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me. It was a 4-star read. But I have read some Emily Henry books before. I read Beach Read back in March and gave that 2 stars. I didn't enjoy that one. But in April, I read her new book, Funny Story, and that was a 4-star read for me. I really enjoyed this one too. This is actually probably in between a 4 and a 5-star because I do love this one more than Funny Story. This is probably my favorite Emily Henry book so far. It was just so cute and fun. This is about Nora, who is a literary agent in New York, and her sister Libby kind of forces her to take a vacation because Nora is one of these people. She's very straight-laced. She's very much into her career, never takes a vacation, and her sister says, you know what, I need to get away. You need a vacation. Let's go to this place together. Anyway, they end up in this small town that is in one of the books of the author that she represents. So while she is there, she runs into Charlie, who is an editor, and they just have never gotten along. I wouldn't say he's her arch nemesis, but they just are not friends. So this is an enemies to lover trope, which is one of my favorite romance tropes. And I just adored this. So really this is kind of about Charlie and Nora and their story. I love their banter. I love their relationship. As I said, I love the hate-love trope, and I feel like Emily Henry does it so well. This is also about sisterhood. This is about Libby and Nora and family and sister dynamics, and so there was some deeper elements in it that I really, really enjoyed as well. I just really adored this book. It was a slow burn. So good. I wish I could read it again. And again, this is my favorite Emily Henry book so far. Not quite a 5-star, but pretty close at probably 4.5 stars. So another book that I read that I've heard a lot of buzz about, this is a book that a lot of people have said got them into reading, or this is on the top of all-time favorite romance reads, and that's Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. And I went into this mentally and emotionally preparing myself because I've heard that this is an emotional read, and sadly it didn't get there for me. I did not cry in this book. It was good. There was definitely some emotional points of this. There definitely was some emotional moments of this book, but it didn't quite get me there. I gave it 3 stars. It was good. I enjoyed it. There was just a few things I had some issues with. But also too, my expectations were set pretty high, and so this may be a situation where they were too high and it didn't quite meet that. But this book is about Bree, who had something pretty traumatic happen to her, and she needs to escape that life, and she ends up in this small town and gets a job, and one day while she's there, she runs into Archer, who cannot speak. And when she asks townspeople about him, they just don't know much about him. He's been ignored, or the people who do know him tell Bree, hey, you need to stay away, he's bad news. But Bree feels some kind of connection to him, and so she seeks him out, and they forge this friendship and then more. And I did really enjoy Bree, and I loved Archer. I loved them together. They both went through horrific things, and I loved how they found each other because they are both really good people who have just been through a lot, and they just needed a person. They needed their person, and they found each other, and I love that. So the problems I had with this book, and the reason why it's not a 4 or 5 star is I didn't love the writing. Also, there were just some cringy moments, and there is a 3rd act conflict that I really just did not love at all. And then finally, it read a little long, and I felt like it drug out at parts. This book is almost 400 pages, which in my opinion is almost average. Yeah, it's a little bit long for a romance, but maybe if certain things could have been whittled down, it may not have read as long or drag out as long. Overall, it was definitely a very good book. It just missed the mark in terms of what I was expecting in this book. So 3 stars. I would encourage everyone to read it because there are a lot of people who absolutely, it's the best of the best for them. For me, this one was middle of the road. It was okay. Next up is Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan, and this book actually came out on June 4th, but I was able to get an ARC ebook copy through NetGalley, and I love this book so much. I am officially a huge fan of Annabelle Monaghan. The first book I read, Nora Goes Off Script, 4 stars. And then the other book I read earlier this month, Same Time Next Summer, 4 stars. This book is a 5-star read for me. She is now officially an instant read for me. Her books are just cute, clean romances, and I absolutely adore them, including this one. I gave it 5 stars. I love this book so much, and I have to say, it made me go through all the feels. I went through several tissues, so it was a little bit of an emotional read because I cried. It was just fantastic. I really loved it. So this book is about Allie, and she's in the middle of a divorce. She also has 3 children, but one day she runs into Ethan, who is in town for the summer. I can't remember why. I want to say it was because he's taking care of a family member's house or something, or getting some loose ends tied up. But he's just in town for a couple of months, and Allie and Ethan have this instant attraction, and it made me giddy. Something about Annabelle Monaghan is she knows how to capture that new relationship giddiness, you know, before things go wrong, when you're just living in this little fantasy world where everything is good and happy. She captures that so well in her books. But Allie and Ethan are instantly attracted to each other, but Allie, because she's going through a divorce and because she has kids, she's also dealing with some grief. She's not looking for a long-term relationship. She also knows Ethan is not from here, and she cannot move to where he lives because she has kids and because she has this life in this small town. So they agree to have a little summer fling, and things go from there. Oh God, I ate this book up. Read this book. It was so good. As I mentioned, Allie is going through some grief. Her mother has passed away, and she is just dealing with all of that. She's dealing with just her awful ex-husband, and it's just, there's so many layers in this book that I just truly adored. And again, go do yourself a favor and read this book. I would say read all of her books, but this has become my absolute favorite book of hers. This book also features a summer setting. It is a small town romance. It is a clean romance. Again, love this book. Highly, highly, highly recommend. 5 stars. Next up is Powerless by Elsie Silver, and this is the 3rd book in the Chestnut Spring series. So the Chestnut Spring books are about the Eaton family, and each family member is getting their own book. It is a cowboy romance series, and so far I've enjoyed them. I do have a couple problems with them, and I'll get into that a little later, but I enjoy this one, and I gave it 4 stars. So this book is about Jasper, who is not blood related to the Eaton family. He, when he was a kid, he just had a really bad home life, and the Eaton brothers pretty much just brought him home, and the whole family just took him in as their own, and he's been raised by the Eaton. So it's kind of like a newfound family. However, this book is about Jasper and Sloane is actually the cousin of the Eatons. And Jasper and Sloane have known each other for obviously a very long time. And Sloane is in the middle of a crisis. Her life has pretty much imploded. She was set to get married. However, that did not happen because of some things that happened. So this is a small town cowboy sports romance that features friends to lovers. Jasper and Sloane definitely have a history. They've known each other for a while. And I really love their history and their chemistry and yearning and pining. Oh my God, the pining in this book. Oh, it really got to me. This is a little bit of a slow burn. I will say this is very, very spicy. Jasper is kind of like the quiet, silent type. And all I have to say is watch out for those quiet ones because whew, it gets steaming. What I didn't love about this and what kept it from being a 5-star read is I didn't like the 3rd act conflict. I got bored with that, and I never like 3rd act conflict. I know you need them in stories, but this one I just really didn't love. Also, just know there is a lot of bad language in here, and the bedroom scenes are very explicit, very, very cringy in moments, just because I personally don't like that. But if you do, you're gonna love this series. This is my favorite, I think, so far in the series. I read Flawless is first, Heartless is second, and then this one. And so far, this is my absolute favorite. There is 2 more books that I will hopefully get to soon. But so far, I am enjoying the series. It's a 4-star series for me. I love this one, and I do recommend it. Okay, we are there. We are at the last book that I read for the month of May, and I saved the best for last. This is a book that I've heard a lot of good things about for a very, very long time, and I finally got my hands on a library copy to read, and I'm so glad I did. But it is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwartz. This book is a fantasy book, and this is a 6-star read. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't read a lot of fantasy books. I read the first 2 books of The Hunger Games and the first 2 books of the Divergent series many, many years ago, and I enjoyed them, but I got kind of bored with it. This book, it's fantasy, but it's not like a high stakes fantasy like those. This is more of like a cozy fantasy. It's very slow, very atmospheric, very lyrical. There's not a whole lot of plot, but it was just so good. So good, in fact, I was just a few pages in and it just sucked me in so quick that I ended up buying my own personal copy. And this book, it actually took me almost 3 weeks to read, just not because I wasn't loving it, but because I was loving it so much. I wanted to extend my reading time with it. I wanted to read every single word. I wanted to take my time with it. This is so hauntingly beautiful. Highly recommend it. But here you are following Adeline LaRue, who was born in France in the 1700s. And right before she's supposed to get married, she prays to the dark gods to give her freedom. And one of the dark gods comes to her rescue, and he says, yes, I will give you freedom. However, with that freedom comes the ability of people to remember her. So when she meets someone, they do not remember her, including her family. So people who have known her whole life don't even remember they had a daughter or a sister named Addie. You're predominantly following her over the course of 300 years as she's coming to terms with the fact that no one remembers her. For example, she can meet someone new and tell them her story, and as soon as they turn their back and then turn back to look at her, they have no recollection. They don't know her. They've never met her before. So that's what this is about. You're following her for 300 years as she's meeting people, trying to come to terms with living her life without people remembering her, until 2014 when she meets a guy at a bookstore who does remember her. And that's what the story is about. It's hauntingly beautiful. This is my new favorite book of the year. The story is just flowery and lyrical and just beautifully written. I want to read more by V.E. Schwartz. Absolutely loved it. 6 stars, highly recommend it if you haven't read anything like this. Just know that it is very, very slow. It was not boring to me. I loved it, but I have heard some people not like it because they got bored with it. I personally loved it, and I absolutely want to read more by this author. Okay, that's all 17 books. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, in the comments, please let me know if you've read any of these books, and let me know what was your favorite and least favorite read for the month of May. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye!